Hello and welcome to Car Valley, and this and that are all Kia Carens, but they're all powered by different powertrain options. Our goal today is to tell you which of these three powertrains is the best option for you. And to do that, we will drive these cars, we'll list out the pros and cons of each of these powertrain, and then towards the end, we'll conclude as to which one you should go for. But since you're watching this video, chances are you also want to know about Kia Carens as a product. And so to start with, we'll quickly run through the pros and cons of Kia Carens as a product. Let's begin with the pros first, and space. Up front, in the second row and particularly in the third row, the Carens offers good usable space for up to 7 occupants. It is also easy to get in and out of in all 3 rows, and the sense of space all around is wonderfully airy. Comfort is yet another pro for the Kia Carens. Be it ride quality, the seating comfort, or the sense of space, the Carens tops these aspects with authority in its price bracket. The suspension is absorbent, if not plush. The seats are supportive, if not cushy. And no matter which row you're sat in, the large glass area never fails to calm your nerves. Another pro is ease of driving. The Carens is also easy to drive. From its light controls to its high seating and the clear visibility offered by the Carens front and rear width screen, ORVMs and via the A-pillars make all of that possible. So be it in traffic, or you're joining a main road, or going through a complicated crossroad, driving the Carens doesn't feel too stressful. And finally, practicality. The biggest reason to buy the Carens has to be its practicality. Having 3 rows of usable seating is just the start. It offers decent boot space, even with the last row in place. And if you drop the last row, the boot space turns cavernous. Then there are many storage options, including multiple cup and bottle holders all around. And finally, you can buy it as either a 6 or 7-seater, enhancing its flexibility further. Now, when it comes to cons, first and most obvious con is that it's not a driver's car. The Carens is many things, but it is not a fun-to-drive car. It feels slow and a little long around tight corners. It doesn't have great steering feel, and though both the petrol and diesel engines have more than enough oomph, these prefer short shifting and riding the torque curve than hitting max revs. The second con for the Carens has to be missing features. When the Carens came out, it was well equipped. Today though, it seems to fall a little short on this front. There's no panoramic sunroof, no power adjustment for its seats, no 360-degree camera, and it has a very basic driver information system instead of a configurable one, which even the Sonnet now gets. Now, before we get behind the wheel and start driving these cars, we wanted to introduce the powertrain options that we have here. So, of course, we've got petrol and we've got diesel. But what we've done here is that we've stayed away from manual gearboxes. And the reason for that is that the Carens as a car is not something that you buy because you enjoy driving. You buy one because you're looking at a car that fits the family, that is comfortable, that's convenient, where people don't fall sick in it when they travel in it because it's claustrophobic. And so we thought the better option would be to choose automatics, or as in this car's case, a clutchless manual, which is the iMT. So all 3, we've got petrol, we've got diesel, and we've got an iMT. And that's the powertrain options that we have here. And we'll tell you, of course, how they drive, what are the pros and cons, and which one you should go for. We're starting proceedings with the iMT. Now, this is iMT you can have with the diesel and the petrol. We have the diesel here, but whatever I say about the iMT applies to the petrol as well. Now, the idea with the iMT was to, of course, have a more affordable, clutchless drive experience, not a complete automatic drive experience. And that, I think, Kia has managed quite well. Now, it might seem a little unintuitive initially because there's no clutch, but you still shift gears. But you get used to it really quickly. And it goes about its business quite seamlessly. I mean, you can go down a gear, you can go up a gear, you can shift with the throttle still on, you can choose to get on the throttle and shift. So it gives you all that kind of flexibility that you want. But if you're coming from a manual, then of course you will get off the throttle and then shift. And when you do that, it is a more seamless shift. If you keep the pedal on, or if you keep the throttle pedal on and then shift the gear, then there is a more severe head nod that comes in because it cuts the power in a more erratic way. So yeah, it doesn't take much time getting used to. And even if you, let's say, find yourself in the wrong gear, let's say in this case we're in a much higher gear, we're in 6th, but we're driving at, let's say, 30 kilometers per hour. So naturally, it's not engaging the gear. What it does is beeps, gives you a beep, like you can hear, which means, okay, now you can shift. Now you can either look at the screen and it will show you what would be the ideal gear to go into, or you can just go down one gear and get on the throttle and it beeps again, then go down further or continue to drive. So it won't take a lot of time getting used to. So as a gearbox iMT, I think it's well executed here. It's a good gearbox. But is it the best option of the 3 that we have here? I'm not really sure about that, and we'll tell you that in the conclusion. But as a gearbox, and this will apply to the petrol as well, like we said, there's absolutely no problem. It feels very natural. It's good to use. So there's one other thing about the iMT gearbox that we appreciate. Now, if you look at an automatic gearbox, you will find that the brake pedal is actually quite large. So if you're not used to driving automatics and you come to there's an emergency situation and you want to get on the brakes, chances are that you will put your left foot, dig it deep, and then get on the brakes because you're used to pressing the clutch. In the automatic, that would land you on the brake with your left foot because the brake pedal is so large, and that's scary. Now here on the iMT, I guess the expectation is that people who are moving to iMTs are coming from a manual. And so very smartly, they've again given a small pedal, just like you get on the manual for the brake, and there is nothing in place of the clutch pedal. So if I want to get on, if there's an emergency thing and I want to get on the brakes hard, then I can just, and I still have a lot of control because there's nothing for me to hit. So that's a very smart thing to have on the iMT. Now we've jumped from the iMT to the diesel automatic. Of course, the engine is the same, but now we've got a conventional 6-speed torque converter gearbox, and we're going to talk about the engine and the gearbox here, unlike where we just spoke about the gearbox there. So first, the engine. The diesel is a torquey unit. It is refined. It is not very loud, and it is efficient. But this is all in a particular RPM band. So if you push it too hard, if you start revving it, then not only does it sound unrefined, but it's also, you can feel it in the steering, you can feel it, in the pedals, around the seat. So you don't really want to rev this engine. Plus, of course, it will ruin your fuel economy. But if you're going long distance, or even if you're commuting in the city, unhurried, then the diesel makes a lot of sense. It doesn't get in the way. And it is, for today's diesels, a good engine. No doubt about that. Now, this gearbox is a 6-speed torque converter. So it's not the sharpest gearboxes when it comes to shift quality, but it is seamless. So when you move from one gear to the other, whether you're going up or going down the gearbox, you can barely feel it. So in that sense, it gives you that sense of comfort. It gives you that sense of relaxed, that relaxed nature is very much there. So if you're looking for something just to take you from point A to point B without bother, without feeling too, maybe a little involved, but not too stressful, but just goes about doing its business without getting in the way. The diesel automatic feels really good. I mean, it is wonderful in that sense. And like we said, it's efficient and it's not really slow in terms of acceleration either. We'll throw some figures in terms of the 0 to 60, 0 to 100 times for all three cars. I don't know the figures off my head right now, but yeah. And the difference isn't too much. Even in terms of roll-on, the difference is not so much. So, yes, it is a good engine to have, a good engine gearbox combo to have. If you're not looking at driving sportily, if you're not looking at gathering pace quickly, if you're just looking at highway cruising, comfortable highway cruising, maybe 90, 100, that kind, and of course, stop and go traffic, it works pretty well. And now we're in the petrol automatic, the 7-speed dual clutch. And immediately after you move from the diesel onto the petrol, and I'm not even pushing it, I'm just started rolling, and immediately you can feel that the petrol, I mean, it feels like a lighter, peppier, more reactive car in terms of throttle input, in terms of how it gathers pace. So that the diesel suddenly after this feels slightly sluggish. On its own, no, the diesel is pretty good. But after this, it just feels like a significant compromise if you're looking for something that feels more reactive in that sense. Now, the 7-speed dual clutch, again, it's got pedal shifters, and it has one extra pop or gear or whatever, because it's 7, that was 6. So there is lots. Let me not forget, it's petrol, so you have a wider rev rate also. So now when you use the pedal shifters, it drops into gears that you want it to. So it doesn't, if you click twice because you want to drop down 2 gears, this will do it, while the diesel refuses to because it didn't want to stay anywhere above 3000 RPM. This one is okay at 4.5 as well. So that kind of flexibility is there. It is peppier, feels lighter, it feels nicer to drive. So yeah, I mean, or just look at the powertrain options, and if you want something that feels more alive, the petrol is clearly the nicer option. Now, even in terms of engine refinement, in terms of the noise it makes and how loud it is, the petrol is significantly quieter, better in terms of refinement than the diesel. Not that it's a completely refined engine, because the moment you go past 4,500 RPM of the petrol, it gets loud and you can feel some vibrations coming in. Not as much as the diesel, but it's still there. So just like the diesel, this one too is an engine that you'd enjoy most in the mid-range. So it's not something that you want to drive or push hard. You want to short shift, or you want to leave it D, and this is a smart enough gearbox, it picks the right gear. And you never find yourself lacking or struggling, getting out of corners, coming out of speed breakers, joining roads, whatever. So you can leave it in D and it does the job. So which of the 3 powertrain options should you go for? Let's start with the iMT because we feel this is the weakest link of the 3. Now, iMT is supposed to give you the flavor of a manual while giving you the convenience of an automatic. And in the Carens case, which is more about being a family car, a comfort-oriented car than a driver's car, the iMT feels inadequate because you don't have the same kind of clutch control that you'd want in a manual. If it were a Venue or an i20, maybe the iMT would feel better in those kind of cars. But here, and this applies to both petrol and diesel, the iMT is more work than convenience, and it doesn't suit the Carens character that well. Then, of course, we've got our traditional automatics. We've got the diesel with the torque converter. We've got the petrol with the dual clutch automatic. And let's talk about the diesel first. Between the two, this is smoother. This is more efficient. Smoother in the sense that when you're starting from a standstill, it's less jerky, it's easy, it flows more easily. And if you're driving in the city, if you're driving at low RPMs, the diesel is a good option. And like I said, it is more efficient. The petrol, though, is our choice because it is more refined, it is quieter, you have significantly more control over your pedal shifters because it's got a 7-speed instead of a 6-speed. And overall, the driving feel is much nicer, peppier, which of course suits the Carens, but it also brings in a little more driver involvement into the scene. But mostly, the fact that this is future-proof. Now, if you buy a diesel because you drive over 3,000 kilometers or something in a month, maybe it still makes sense. But given how regulations are going, given how the government is looking at diesel versus petrol, if you buy the petrol, you're future-proofing yourself. You'd probably get better, higher, resale for this car compared to this. And if you are in the Delhi NCR region, well, then it's a no-brainer because diesel is out and petrol is in.